Today, I'm going to take you through the exact framework that I would use if I wanted to lose 10 pounds in a sustainable manner by summer. So, everything I'm telling you today is going to result in the weight loss, but it's also going to make sure that you don't just put all of that weight back on over summer as well. So, for someone that wants to lose some weight, get a chair, grab a cup of coffee, and maybe make some notes. Number one, the first thing we're going to do is work out your calories. Being in a calorie deficit is the only way you're going to lose body fat. A lot of people online are going to tell you different things about cortisol and hormones and trying to sell you supplements. Today, I'm giving you hard scientific facts that the way to lose body fat is to simply eat less food than you are burning. So, what that means for the kind of general public is you're going to be eating less calories than your body uses every single day. Now, using doesn't just mean structured exercise. That's going to take into account things like steps and even my hand movements I'm doing now. That all adds up. So to work out your calories, there's a few different ways, and with a specific client, I probably would do this a bit more scientifically. But a really good place to start is simply to take your body weight in pounds. So let's make this nice and easy because I'm terrible at maths. Let's say you're 100 pounds, which I mean, no one's 100 pounds, but if you're 100 pounds, you are simply going to times that between 10 to 12, depending on your activity levels. So if you are not a very active person and you have quite a sedentary job, you're not really doing much structured exercise, and you don't have a lot of muscle mass, I probably just times that by 10. So that would work out that you're going to need 1,000 calories a day. Now, again, this is just an example. No one needs 1,000 calories a day. You are definitely going to need more. So for example, with that, if you're 150 pounds, you're going to need about 1,500 calorie a day. If you are a more active individual, so if you exercise quite a lot or you're you move quite a lot, your steps are maybe 8 to 10K a day, I'd probably times that more by 12 to get your calorie deficit. So again, you'd be looking for a 100-pound individual to be about on 1,200 calories a day. So work out your own body weight in pounds and times that most likely by 12, but if you happen to be not very active, by 10. Now, this is not going to be the exact number. You are going to have to see how your body responds. You might find after a few weeks that you're losing weight too quickly. You might find that you're too hungry, your energy levels are dipped. And it's really important to take those things into consideration, which is why having a coach that can actually work this out for you is really important. But as a general rule of thumb, that's a good place to start. The next thing we're going to do is working out our protein. So protein is really important, not just if you want to be a bodybuilder, it's also going to keep you fuller for longer. It's going to help blood sugar stabilization. It's going to mean that you're not starving and just craving sugar 24/7. And it is also going to help recovery and building lean muscle, which is what you want to do if you want to look your best. So with losing that 10 pounds, you could lose 10 pounds of body fat, but you could also lose 10 pounds of body fat and also muscle mass. So we want to minimize that as much as possible and make sure that what you are losing is body fat, because that's where the real physique changes happen. So to work out you're going to be like, oh my God, so much maths today. To work out your protein that you're going to need every single day, you are going to do one more equation, which is very simply, you're going to need about 0.5 to 1 grams of protein a day per pound of body weight. So again, for a 100-pound individual, you are going to need between 50 to 100 grams of protein. I would always strive for that higher number. So ideally, this person is going to eat 100 grams of protein a day. Now, a few factors come into that. For example, if you don't have total control over your food or you're not used to eating a lot of protein, this can be a really big jump up. So you feel free to increase this slowly over time. But the higher your protein as a general rule of thumb, the less hungry you're going to be, the more sustainable this is going to be, and yeah, it's going to help performance, recovery, and all those good things. In terms of your carbs and fats each day, I wouldn't panic too much. Just start with tracking your food, looking at what you're doing, using the calories and the protein given. Look at those first, and then everything else you can kind of work out later. The next tip I'm going to give is to start slow and sustainable and build up. So if you've decided to say you want to lose 10 pounds by summer and get into the best shape possible, I would probably bet good money that you've already decided you're going to train 5, 6, 7 times next week, and you're going to go and do abs every single day, and you're going to run, and you're going to overhaul your whole lifestyle. Well, that is not most likely going to be very sustainable, and this is why people yo-yo. They start things with too high expectations of themselves, they can't sustain it, and they fall off. So my biggest tip is to start slow and build up. So I'd probably say for most people, if you're not currently exercising, start with 2 to 3 workouts a week, whether those are home or gym, and build that up over time. Stop trying to do 5, 6, 7. I'm a full-time online coach and I couldn't commit to that. So I promise you it's unlikely that you can too. The next tip, so what I would suggest with those workouts is doing a mixture of strength and cardio. You don't just want to go in the deep end on cardio, and I also would recommend not avoiding cardio altogether. Again, to get the best shape possible for your 10 pounds that you're going to lose, I would recommend that you still want to build a bit of lean muscle. And again, if we're eating enough protein, we should hopefully see some changes with that as well. So I would recommend doing a bit of strength stuff, again, whether that's home or the gym or both, and also some cardio. With cardio, I think everyone immediately assumes that they have to run to be losing weight. People associate running with dieting. If anything, something like running is actually most likely going to make you quite hungry. So if you're not currently doing much exercise, I would actually recommend something a bit less impactful on all your joints and a bit easier to recover from. So potentially like the elliptical or a bike or a rower, or some incline walking, like fast incline walking is really effective and it's not going to be as demanding on your body. If you want to run and you've decided running is your thing, absolutely do that as well. But if you're starting out, I wouldn't start there. The next one, so steps. You've already decided you want to lose 10 pounds in the next few weeks. How are we going to do that? Well, I again wouldn't go straight in and jump up to an unrealistic amount of steps unless you're lucky enough like me to work at home, have a walking pad and not have much excuse. It's going to be hard to make that adjustment with your lifestyle. Go to your Apple Watch, and if you don't have an Apple Watch, go to your phone, go to anything that tracks your steps, because I'm sure most people's phones do these days. Look at your average steps. So for example, on an average week, you normally do 4K steps a day. All I want you to do to start with is add 2 to 3K a day to that. So I don't want you to suddenly go out and do 10K every single day. I don't want you to feel like you've got to do 15 or 20K or whatever you see the fitness influencers doing. Start small and again, build up from there. 2 to 3K is going to add a few extra 100 calories that you're burning every single day, which will add up throughout the week, but it's not going to be totally unsustainable. That's probably only an extra 10, 20 minutes of walking a day. The next one is pick your battles with social occasions. You might be like, I really want to lose this 10 pounds by summer, but I'm looking at every weekend and I've got a meal out here, a night out here, I've got social occasions most evenings, I've got a social job or a job that involves drinking or eating. Pick your battles. Sometimes you are going to have to say no, and sometimes you can say yes. And I think it's important to always go into a social occasion asking yourself this question. Is it more important to me that I just enjoy the social occasion and accept the fact that I might then not be in a deficit this week, or I might put myself out of a big deficit this week? Or is it more important to me that I still actually see a result on the scale and my body this week? And is fat loss the priority? And that's going to mean that you go into the occasion knowing which one you should pick. Now, if you decide that you are just happy to just enjoy the social occasion, have as many drinks as you want, eat what you want, and you don't mind about the scales, at least you know that going into it, rather than getting there, going off plan and then feeling really bad about it. Just set the expectations with yourself and pick your battles. For me, I am quite happy cutting out alcohol if I'm dieting. I'm quite happy being fairly strict with food. But there's some things like a wedding or a birthday or some sort of big celebration. I personally don't think any diet is worth giving that up. Like if a dieting phase falls over my birthday, you best believe I'm eating whatever I want on my birthday. So always go into it, set expectations for yourselves and pick your battles. This kind of goes into tip number 7, which is learn to say no and set boundaries. So a lot of the women I work with are people pleasers. They have low self-worth and they are always saying yes to things. Now, people often think, how does this link to fat loss? I promise you it does. The people that smash fat loss are the people that learn to say no and set boundaries. If you're at a family dinner and people ask you to, have that glass of wine or have a bit of extra bread, and you people please and go, oh, I don't want to be rude, so I'll have it, but it doesn't serve your goals, then you are simply setting yourself backwards. It's actually really important to learn to say no and sometimes just set the boundaries with things that don't serve you. If you don't want to go to a social occasion, say that. If you don't want to eat something that's not going to serve your goals currently, say that. It does feel uncomfortable to start with. And we are talking, I'm like the biggest people pleaser in the world. So I definitely have been there. But I've now learned over the years that, if people are trying to force you to eat things or engage in certain behaviors that don't serve you, it is a reflection on them and their own choices, and 9 times out of 10 an insecurity from them. So learn to say no, set some boundaries with the people around you, your partner, kids, family, whoever it is that's or friends, that's kind of pushing things that don't serve you, and just be okay to sometimes say no. Like if they're real friends, family, they're going to accept your behaviors and hopefully should support you in your goals. I would recommend either weighing daily or monthly. Now you're going to think, Liv, I've always weighed weekly. Now don't get me wrong, some of my clients do weigh weekly. So There is also a caveat to this, but weighing monthly is really useful because, particularly if you're a female, you are going to see big fluctuations throughout the month. So if you can weigh week 1 of your cycle or week 2 of your cycle, for example, and compare that to week 2 of your next cycle, that is going to be far more accurate than weighing in the middle of your cycle and then weighing on your period. You are going to see changes in water weight, in retention, in bloating, and all of those things can make a big difference. I gain like a kilo every single period without fail. And if I weighed over those few days, I'm going to feel really demotivated and be like, oh my God, I've failed this week. That always drops off. It is water weight, it is water retention, it is literally what happens, but it can throw you off, which is why I don't love weekly weigh-ins for a lot of females. The other option is weighing daily. So this can be really good if you have a good relationship with the scale, because it's going to help to show the fluctuations. We all have fluctuations. No one's weight loss graph is like this completely. There is always going to be little dips along the way. So for example, in a fat loss phase, I weigh myself daily. My weight will go up a pound one day, it will go down 2 pounds the next day, it'll go back up, it'll go down, and it will keep, as long as it's keeping going down eventually and the average is going down, then I'm happy. It takes away, like for example, if you have a bit more carbs that evening, or you're a bit bloated, or you ate a bit later that evening, you're a bit more stressed, you didn't sleep well, there's so many factors that can change that scale weight, which is why it's so important to look at the bigger picture. So I take an average of my weight each week from all of my weigh-ins that week and compare it to last week and go week by week that way. And it's far more accurate than just weighing in once that week. So yeah, I would definitely recommend one of the two. If you want to weigh weekly, you can, but if you're weighing daily, it's really important as well to know that it is going to fluctuate. You're not going to see it going down every single day. And if you have any sort of bad relationship with the scales or previous issues with the scales, I probably would go more for the monthly option. Last two. Penultimate one is learn your danger zones and fix those first. As a kid growing up, my parents at 3 p.m. every single day gave me chocolate and crisps. Now that was just what happened back then, so that is just what I did. So for me, 3 p.m. is my danger zone. At 3 p.m. I want chocolate and crisps, and this is an ingrained behavior that I've had for years. The way I have fixed this, and I don't really have that issue anymore, is I actually don't eat 3 meals a day. I eat 4 meals a day. This really helps me so much because I'm always full. I always have some good amount of protein in my body. I've got like balanced sugars. I'm not like waiting to get too hungry. I haven't got a huge gap between lunch and dinner. So I always normally eat like a later breakfast, and then like I'll have lunch a bit later. I'll have a later meal, I guess, like my in-between meal, and then I'll have a dinner, and that just works for me. I'm not saying that you need to do that, but for me, I know the time of day that I'm most likely to fall off track and reach for some chocolate is when I'm sat at my desk and I'm hungry and it's 3 p.m. So if you find your danger zones, work around those. For example, if you're an evening eater or an evening snacker, try pushing your dinner later, try having a bigger dinner. Or what you could do is save some calories, save something with some protein in, some fiber in as well to have with something that's a bit sugary or something that you want to crave as well, and plan that in for the evening. It's really important to work with whatever your normal danger zones are. Last thing, if you're doing weights and you're kind of looking at that 10-pound number, I think it's really easy, as I mentioned, to just think about losing 10 pounds. I want you to think about losing 10 pounds in the right places and in the right ways, which is why we're doing things like adding the strength training in, focusing on obviously protein and all those things as well, because you could lose 10 pounds of water weight, but you're not going to really look any difference. We are trying to lose 10 pounds of body fat. To not only go off just the scales, I also want you to take progress photos and I want you to take body measurements. You can get a really simple, like cheap tape measure that you can just do some body measurements a few times. You don't need to do this every single week, but maybe every few weeks for that as well, or if you want to weekly. And photos, I would also take photos because you'll be surprised at where your body's changing, and that might give you a bit of focus, like, oh, do you know what? I really want to start building more glutes, so I'm going to do more leg work, or oh, I'm not really losing weight here, so maybe I need to like focus on my workouts in that area. Again, you can't spot reduce fat, but it's really good to see where your body's changing and make decisions accordingly. And if you've realized that you are probably losing muscle mass, you might need a bit more food or you might need a bit more protein. Really important to not just go off how the scales are, it's also important to go off how you feel, how you look, and make sure you're losing in the places you want to and that you're getting a better physique at the end of this. So that was my 10 tips of how to lose 10 pounds by summer in a sustainable manner that's going to mean that you can keep these habits up. So even if you actually want to end up losing 20, 30, 40 pounds, all of these habits will serve you. If you have any questions with any of them, or you want to pick my brains on some of the things I said, or maybe, for example, you want a bit more specialized help, then please do reach out to me. My name is liv_coach on both Instagram and YouTube. I am always happy to help. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm happy to give you some personalized advice as well. So shoot me a message, and if you do happen to want some more specialized one-to-one coaching, reach out to me as well.